Does Aaron Brooks lift weights? How much does he lift in?
I haven't seen him lift weights. Like at Penn State, like what we do a lot is we'll like play wrestle. So like they'll say, hey, we're gonna work in these 3 areas or 4 areas, and they'll show like different techniques for those situations. And then we'll play wrestle, kind of spar with each other. You can only really do that once you have an understanding of fundamentals. I think with Anthony too, he just like had such a strong belief in himself. And we talked about that before. Like he never made the state tournament until his senior year, and then he won the state tournament in New Jersey. And then same thing in college, he never made the starting lineup until he competed in a couple duels, but like never like made the starting lineup for the postseason until his senior year, and then he won the nationals and beat Gabe Stevenson. Like I feel like all the guys in my class, like Nico, Shakur, like Anthony, Neville's, anytime like Zane, anytime we had a chance to wrestle, we were wrestling. We wanted to get the pigtail matches like in the tournaments, because like it just gave us more opportunities for pins. We were all trying to like beat each other and like number of pins and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
This is a conversation I had with 3-time NCAA national champ Jason Nolf. He recently came down to Iron Faith to run a camp for my guys, and I was able to sit down and ask him questions on his training schedule, mindset, as well as what he thinks are the most important things you should be focusing on if you're trying to get better faster. Let me know in the comments below if you want more conversations like this. I want to make sure I'm giving you guys the best information possible, and I thought no better way to do that than from getting it from a 3-time national champ like Jason Nolf.
So you've been wrestling for a while. Talk to me about kind of how your training changed from 6 years old. And maybe you're doing multiple sports when you were younger, how you went to maybe go full into wrestling, then into high school, then wrestling at Penn State, and now training more freestyle and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so I started wrestling when I was 6, and I played baseball, t-ball, baseball, and wrestling until I was maybe 12. And then I stopped playing baseball and I mainly focused on wrestling, but I had cousins that I grew up with, so we were always playing with football in the backyard, basketball. I always loved all sports. But I probably started going a couple times a week, like maybe once or twice a week when I first started wrestling. And then, probably by the time I was like 8 or 9, I was going 3-4 times a week, and, continued to probably train 4 times a week until I got into, high school. I would drive an hour and a half each way. My dad would drive an hour and a half each way to All-American to take me to club practice or wherever else I was going for club practice. And, so I spent a lot of time on the road. I competed a lot. I was competing pretty much every tournament. I would do like 2 weight classes or 2 age groups. And, I would say that, I didn't wrestle like as part of like my regular elementary school. I just did club. Same with middle school. I didn't like wrestle for the middle school. I just did club. And once I got into high school, then I started to train probably like 6 to 8 wrestling practices a week. So like Sunday I would train, Monday I would train twice, Tuesday I would train twice, Wednesday I would train twice, Thursday and Friday I would train once. And then aside, obviously, if we had like a competition, I would take competition day off, but I would go to my high school practice right after school. It'd be a 2-hour practice. Then I'd drive an hour to Young Guns and train for an hour and a half, stay after, do extra, climb the rope, do sprints, whatever it was, and then get home at like 11 and then do the same thing again the next day. So, I'll definitely say like, it's kind of like a slope. Like I started off like training a few times a week, then high school was when I trained the most. And then when I got back to college, it was back to like 4 wrestling sessions a week. I had already put in like a lot of the work to like build my fundamentals, through wrestling. And my dad always told me, wrestling's going to be the hardest time in your life if you do it the right way. So I spent probably high school is like the hardest I've ever worked. I would say it was the hardest time for me compared to like all the other times with college. I didn't have to drive at all. I walked right across the street, went to practice was an hour and a half, and we played dodgeball for 30 minutes of it. So it became easy. And I think that's why I was able to like get so much better too at Penn State, because like I was having so much fun because it was so much easier. But I felt like it was necessary to do everything that I did when I was in high school. It set me up for success later in life. I think if people try to have too much fun and like slack off too much in high school, and instead of going to practice at night, club practice, they're only doing their high school practice, then they're just holding themselves back, setting themselves back, and they'll pay for it later. So I would say like it was like a bell curve, like 4 practices up to 8 for 4 years, and then back down to 4 practices.
And when did you start training like all year round? Was that pretty early on? When you got middle school?
I was probably like 9 or 10.
Started training, really got into it.
I would go to like summer camps. So, I would take a little bit of time off, but I would go like 4 or 5 week-long camps throughout the summer just wrestling. And it was really boring and I did not want to do it, but I'm glad that I did.
And when you mean like, when you were saying, that high school was harder than college, do you mean the competition? Do you mean more the schedule? Do you mean both? You know what I mean? Like,
it was, everything was so much easier. Well, the competition was harder, but not really too much because I was still like pretty much, bonus pointing everybody.
yeah.
And in high school, I mean, I probably had like similar statistics. I probably had more pins in high school. I definitely had more pins in high school. I had more matches, but like my rate of pinning was higher in high school for sure, but I was still able to, practice was easier. Everything, like not having to drive was easier. Competition was about the same, probably a little bit harder. But I got a lot better, so it became easier. Like in high school, I wasn't as strong as some of the guys. So like I would struggle against the strong guys, but I became stronger in college. And now it was just, I had good technique too. So I was able to just win a lot.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's like, I feel the same way. Like, especially with the school too, where the school in high school is like 7 hours. The school in college is like some days 2 hours. Some days you have no class.
Yeah.
So I felt the same way. And, I think you also hit on that one thing too. It's like at the end of the day, you put in all this work in high school. You started when you were 6 years old. You've been putting in work since you're 6 years old. So like, I'll tell you from my experience, when I got to college, I had to wrestle more because I was still on this catch up. I had to catch up. I wasn't in a position where like, I didn't put the amount of work you put in high school. I had to get that in and get my technique better and get everything else better. So I think like, that all makes perfect sense to me. And I think a lot of you guys can learn from what stage you're at and how much work you have to put in, because you may not have started at 6 years old, but if you did, and, you know, we do have a lot of athletes at Iron Faith that starting at 6, 7 years in our program. So they have a nice idea of like, well, maybe I don't have to wrestle twice a day when I'm 6 years old. Maybe that's not the best way to go about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think each person's going to be a little bit differently, but, you want to like teach your kids to love the sport first. And then once they're starting to improve, then you start to like the better you get, I feel like the more work you start putting in. Even still, I feel like some people think it's the opposite. Like, oh, the better I get, the less I have to work. But it's like, the better you get, the more you should work.
Yeah.
And then obviously, like I was training at Penn State. I think that was another reason I got so good, is because I had such good coaches and good partners to train with. So we were all such high level. So we were able to put in less work at that point and get a lot better. But I mean, yeah, there's no substitute like when you're a kid for work, but you just have to do it. Yeah. Like I recommend competing a lot. You know, not necessarily like cutting weight all the time, but like just competing a lot and training a lot. And I would say like the peak is when you're in high school.
Yeah.
Middle school, high school.
We talked about this like a little while ago. You were talking about how the idea of cutting weight, like when should a kid cut weight? How much should they be cutting? And you said there's kind of a balance where like, yeah, cutting a lot of weight when you're young may not be the best, but winning is important.
Yeah.
And you said like, if you have to cut a few pounds to wrestle at a big tournament and have some success, that will give you confidence. Is that some of the thoughts you have?
Yeah, you don't want to just go wrestle like up a weight every single time, I don't think, because, unless you're like winning, if you're doing it and you're winning, then keep doing it. And that's good. Like some people just have like, they're stronger, or like, you know, some people are really strong when they're young, so they can go up a weight. Like I wasn't very strong, so I cut maybe 2 or 3 pounds, like when I was a kid, and sometimes maybe a little bit more. Like obviously the older I got, I cut a little bit more weight. But yeah, you don't want to be like, if you're like 60 pounds, you don't want to be cutting like 5 to 7 pounds, like something like that. That's like a ridiculous amount of weight. So, yeah, I would just like, obviously just like, have like awareness around the situation and recognize like when too much is too much. And, but I think like a little bit of like weight cut is good for just teaching like discipline and like self-control. Yeah. And you learn that way. And I think you compete a little bit better when you're hungry too. Like when you have like I compete better when I when I go down a weight class rather than like when I'm like just walking around naturally, because there's something in my body that like triggers like, okay, it's time to like fight. Like when I'm starting to cut weight, I'm like, okay. And then I'm like a little bit more aware, a little bit more like on edge. And I think I compete better. But again, like for me, an example, like in 2019, I cut to 70 kilos for the US Open. And that was 154. I was wrestling 157 in college. And that was like the hardest cut, one of the hardest cuts I've ever had. And I decided after that, I ended up losing the last second to James Reed in the semis. And I made weight again the next day. It was so hard. And ended up wrestling back for third. But after that, I decided to go up. It's like, even though I might have a better chance of winning, against James Reed or like Ryan Deacon, those guys, I was like, I'm going to go up and I'm going to wrestle Martinez and Burroughs. And those guys, he's going to be like, those guys are probably a little bit like stronger and harder, but like, I'm not sacrificing my body for that. To a certain extent, like I'll sacrifice a little bit, but that was like a pretty big cut. So that's when I decided to go up, and then within a couple of years, I filled into the weight. Like now it's like super hard to make 74 kilos.
Yeah.
Like that.
Now, you were saying you were practicing about 4 times a week, probably during that season. What other things were you doing during a regular like Penn State schedule? Like, I guess we'll talk about during the season. Are you wrestling 4 times, lifting a couple times? Are you doing stretching? Is there any extra work that's being put in?
We do, usually do like 2 like workouts, like non-wrestling workouts throughout the week, like Tuesday, Saturday, whether it's a circuit and lift or 2 lifts or something like that. But it's not like anything, too severe during the season. It's just like keep maintaining strength, maybe getting a little bit stronger, doing a little grip. Sometimes like we'll do like a little arm farm pump just to like feel good, stuff like that. But, we're wrestling mainly, in season.
Are guys coming in on their own time too with coaches and working? Is there additional practices happening, or is it which the majority of people are just kind of doing there before practices? And
you have a few guys like Carter's in there like 8 times a day.
Yeah.
He's in there he's in there like past midnight sometimes. I don't know, maybe. But, when I was a freshman, I was in there like, cause I was used to working out twice a day in high school, and I'd go in at night. The coaches had to like end up telling me like, hey, like we have this schedule set for a reason. Talk to us if you want to like come in extra. But you'll have some guys that'll come in like in the mornings some days just to work technique with the coaches, but most guys I would say just like stick to the schedule.
Yeah, that's interesting because like I think it's not common for a coach to tell you to dial back that often. Like I don't see it very often. I see more people saying, like they would be like, oh, it was awesome that you won it.
Yeah.
So I think like that shows some, I guess, intelligence on their part of like knowing when to dial back.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a time for both. There's time to dial up, and there's time to dial back.
Yeah, and it even reminds me of like, I don't know if there's truth to it, but I always heard like Penn State guys would sit out some more matches maybe than normal during the season.
Some guys do. I never did. I wanted to wrestle every match.
Yeah.
Like, if I was wrestling, like some guys will try to like sit out, like if they're not going to have like a big match or something, they'll try to sit out so that they don't so they don't have to win or something. But like when I didn't have like a big match, I was like, oh, nice easy pin. Yeah. So awesome. That was kind of my mindset. Same with I feel like all the guys in my class, like me, Bo, Shakur, like Anthony, Neville's, anytime like Zane, anytime we had a chance to wrestle, we were wrestling. We wanted to get the pigtail matches like in the tournaments because like it just gave us more opportunities for pins. We were all trying to like beat each other in like number of pins and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It's like, it's not that's fun. You're saying like, you're saying you got to enjoy it. So like, if the weight cutting is making you not enjoy it, then maybe there's something with that. And like, if, the way the practices are being run and the way your mindset is going into each match, you maybe have to change that. I think like, it seems like you're having a lot of fun with your team where you're like, no, we're trying to get like the most pins. We're trying to win. We're not here like, oh, I got this guy. Like a lot of times, from personal experience, I've had like coaches, I've had athletes, before I have a big match, like, oh man, watch out for this, or like, how you almost like making you nervous. And it seems like even from that one thing you said, that your teammates are there to get you excited and ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. And it was fun, like, just like, it's easy to like go out there and compete when you have other guys competing the way that you want to compete. and you just watch how everybody competes around you, and then you just kind of like rise with the tide.
Yeah, makes total sense. Does Aaron Brooks lift weights? How much does he lift in?
I haven't seen him lift weights. I think that he lifted a little bit in college, like, cause it's mandatory.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't, I lift weights, but Aaron, I don't see him in there lifting weights. Yeah, I don't think he lifts.
Seems like he doesn't need to do it, I guess.
He's really strong. Well, you have guys like Bo when he was in college, he didn't really lift, but he lifts now. But like when he was in college, we have our strength coach, Mike, and like me and Shakur will be, like working so hard. Like and then Coach Mike would be like, hey, you're not taking long enough breaks. Like, you need to take a longer break. And then we would take a long break, be like, hey, your breaks are too long. You need to like, but he would be on us and we'd be like deadlifting so much weight. And then, Bo would be in the back hitting the speed bag. And he's like, Bo, what are you doing? And I was like, farm. And he just kept hitting the bag and that's all he did. He's like, nice. So like, Bo kind of like, he had a little bit of extra freedom, I guess, with Coach Mike. But, yeah, some guys lift more than others and some guys don't really like to lift at all. And I think that lifting is good for you. I lifted a little bit in high school, just enough to like learn how to lift weights like the right way. And then, when I got to college, I started lifting more for sure.
Yeah, I feel like it seems like what I've seen as a coach is each athlete has their own thing that they may struggle with. Like, if you're weak, you may need to lift weights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If somebody picks your leg up and you can't have it straight, you need to stretch a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it makes sense that there's some people that it seems like there's more individualism in the room, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's what you experienced.
For sure.
Some people, they don't have a lot of time to get good. I have athletes that started junior year in high school. You know, they may not want to be a Division I national champion. They may want to place at the Rhode Island State tournament.
Yeah.
And with limited amount of time, I have a couple things of importance that I want to list off, and I want you to let me know like what you feel. How would you rank these things? So we've got mat time, like practices, cardio. A lot of people are doing runs, lifting, and then studying technique. So you got mat time, cardio, lifting, and studying.
I would put lifting at the bottom probably. I don't think it's that important. Like, I think strength is really important, but like within 2 years, you're not really going to maybe get too much stronger to like make a big difference. I would spend so that would be number 4. Number 3 would probably be, cardio. I'd probably say cardio and like watching technique videos. It's like 2 to 3, like you could like interchange them.
Yes.
I think the top 3 choices are all really important. Like, you gotta be in good conditioning. I used to run a lot, like mainly like for my conditioning, but also for my mindset. Like, I knew that if I could like run super hard for this distance on a treadmill with like whatever, and I would listen to music, and I knew that was making me tougher and like more resilient. So I think that's important, like doing cardio, but not just like jogging around, like doing like intense runs.
Yeah.
Like not long distance, but like go on the treadmill and run like at a high speed for 20 minutes with like sweats on.
Yeah.
And then like do conditioning after practice, do sprints like down and back, bear crawl, baby crawl, sprint, like those kind of drills, like those kind of conditioning drills. I think that's really important. And then like studying technique. Like if you're a new wrestler, go on Ocean and you can get all the best techniques in the world broken down step by step for you. So you don't have to try to like teach yourself or like try to like remember what coach said at practice or try to like visualize it. You can literally see it on your phone or on your computer at home. And then you can use that and then go in, find a mat in your free time or just do it in your living room and drill that with your dad or your brother or your sister. There's so much technique that's available nowadays that, if you're not watching it, then you're holding yourself back.
Yeah.
But with that being said, like number 1 is definitely mat time and just spending as much time on the mat as possible, especially with limited time. If you start when you're 10th grade or 11th grade, like you need to be on the mat. You need to go to every single practice you can go to, whether you're sick, you're a little bit hurt, like you can't make excuses. You need to be there. And like for me, it was never when I woke up in the morning, in high school, I knew what I was doing every day, pretty much all year. And I didn't wake up like, oh, I'm really tired today and broken down. And, I don't really feel like doing this today. It's like, no, I'm going to, practice my high school practice, and then I'm going to club practice. Even if I'm tired, even if I can't even break a sweat because, I was cutting too much weight or whatever, like I was going to it. And I think that, more kids need to do that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I really like about, all the instructional videos you have and the stuff out there is like, a lot of times you go into your room and they may not be showing stuff specific to what you need. Meaning you're a leg rider, they're showing bars and your whole high school system is bars. If you ride legs in your club and that's what you're focus on. It's hard to make that jump with your leg riding if you're not getting the information back. And your coach might be able to help you with leg riding, but they're running their system. And there's nothing wrong with that. But with the opportunity for these, you could go on and watch the best leg riding instructions you can find, go back in the room, try it out, make the adjustments, and you can continue to get your technique better and build your own system, which I think is super important. Now I want to go into the layouts of practice. You've been to a lot of practices, a lot of different clubs at Penn State, probably traveled to other places. What do you feel like is a good, layout for a practice? Do you think most of the time should be spent drilling? Most time should be spent, I think it's drilling and live, and technique is just like part of drilling. People they circle up, show a technique. But, where do you feel is it happen meeting with stuff like that?
I think it just depends on your level. Like who you're teaching and who's training. Like if you're a beginner, you need to drill as much as possible. So you need to do the technique and then go drill that 20 times each or something like that. You go back and forth. Coach Waller, we used to do 4 moves of practice, spend like 30 minutes on each move. And, he'd walk around and make sure everybody has the technique done right. I think that's what you need when you're more a beginner. You need just need technique but you need to do a little live at the end of practice too. To be able to cause live's fun. Everybody wants to wrestle live and you go to practice, you just do technique up all day. It's kids aren't really excited to go to practice if that's what practice is going to be like. So you gotta do it because it's hard and it's boring, but you gotta do that. I think as you start to get older, you can start implementing quick drills. So just high pace, hey, hit five elbow pass to high crouch, hit 5 elbow pass to single, hit 5 down dog, and then kind of have a card that you go through. And then at Penn State, what we do a lot is we'll play wrestle. So they'll say, hey, we're going to work in these 3 areas or 4 areas, and they'll show different techniques for those situations. Then we'll play wrestle, kind of spar with each other. You can only really do that once you have an understanding of fundamentals. So you can't really you go get new beginner wrestlers, you say, hey, go play wrestle. They have no idea what they're doing. And, they're just playing patty cake out there. So, I think that's more higher level concept. But what I would do, probably how I would lead my practices is just have them get a good warm up in, make sure they're starting to break a sweat, and then I'll probably work through a few technique positions, run through some drills, and then do some live. Yeah. And that's kind of how I'd schedule it.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. It's a lot of people, it's well, if you don't have somewhat advanced wrestlers, you shouldn't be copying the Penn State flow drill. And it's you don't even know how to hit a single leg with your head up or whatever the case might be. So it's I think even just listening to that, I'm rethinking some of the stuff I'm doing. It's maybe I'm implementing the flow drilling a little too early with a kid who needs to spend that 10, 15 minutes hitting single legs with no resistance or something like that. But I like that a lot. Now, I want to know what you think your toughest practice was ever. You have a story of your toughest practice, maybe at Penn State or in high school, or coach was mad? I don't know if that's.
I've had some tough practices. I would mainly say they were my high school practices. With my Tanning, my coach would run us through because I didn't cut weight the right way. I didn't drink any water all day. Yeah. I would go to the water fountain, put the water in my mouth and spit it out. I would maybe drink 8 ounces of water a day. Yeah. And it was it was horrible. I would definitely not do that again. So, my mouth would be I'd be chewing gum, but the gum would dissolve in my mouth and I could not break a sweat. Yeah. And it was just overheating and hot. The room was so hot, and we'd do a 2-hour practice and then we'd go run through the hallways. I just remember a lot of hard practices like that. We just couldn't wait for it to be over. But then I get the, young guns practice at night, and, that was always a little bit shorter, hour and a half. And I would would maybe drink a little water before that. So,
Yeah.
but no, I think like with proper, like, there's so many different like tough practices. I don't remember one specific.
Yeah. We did like, the preseason one, like, I loved rest. I didn't love anything else. Like, I didn't like running.
Yeah.
I didn't like lifting actually too. I like wrestling. So to me, like, the hardest practice was doing the things I didn't like.
Yeah.
Like the running through a hallway or something like that. Or, you know, I was at Drexel in Philly, so we would do like run to the Art Museum and fill it up like with a rock and did and run those steps and like, and that stuff was like, I hated preseason. I'm like, I was done on that.
Yeah.
I'm done with this running stuff.
I agree.
But it does help, like you said, like, I think, I got most of my cardio from live wrestling, I would say, because it makes sense. But like the mindset portion makes total sense. Like it's going to make you tough.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. It's something you don't want to do. Yeah. And, being tough is important for winning matches. A lot of times you break people. The first takedown's hard, but can they handle it another? But or a lot of times I would break people when they took me out because I get out so easily, right back on them. You know, people that might have been better technical wrestlers than me, they take me down twice. After the third one, it's still 3-6, and then I'm like, they're broken in the second period. Let's go. So
get one takedown, you're one point down now.
Yeah. Now I do want to talk about mindset a little bit, like you said. There's different kind of thoughts out there about the importance of mindset. You even have people say like, you know, it's 90% mental, 10% everything else. How important was mindset to you when you wrestled? Did you struggle with mindset? Did you have to like work through that? Did you always have a tough mindset?
Yeah, I always had a tough mindset. I felt like my coaches, like I had a coach, Doug Joseph. He was like kind of like a motivational coach for me. He used to always like fire me up like when I was a kid. But I think mindset is really important. I mean, if you don't believe in yourself, then you're not going to be successful. Like if you believe that the guy's going to beat you, like when you go out there, then you're probably going to get beat. Yeah. So like no matter how hard you work, no matter what you do, like you have to believe in yourself and you got to have a strong mindset. You know, even when adversity hits, like say you go get taken down first, are you going to break or are you going to get back up like you said and get the next takedown? Even if you get taken down 3 times, so you're going to keep wrestling. And if you have a weak mindset, like you're not going to keep wrestling. So you got to have a strong mindset. You got to believe that no matter what, you can come back and win. And you got to handle adversity well and kind of respond to it with like a strong character. And I think that if you do that and you always believe in yourself, then you're going to be a lot more successful than if you don't. So it's going to be nervous. Like we talk about nerves a lot. Like, everybody gets nervous pretty much. It just means you care. But, trusting that your body's going to do what it needs to do, whenever you go compete. It's like, how many people are still nervous when the whistle blows? Not many. Like you kind of forget about it. And if you're still nervous, then you're probably afraid, which is like not a good thing. You don't want to be afraid competing, because it doesn't really hold like whether you win or lose doesn't really hold true value, but like you still want to go win. So it's good to be nervous, but as soon as the whistle blows, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to win. And that means that even if I get taken down, if I get put on my back, like I still want to go dominate and score a lot of points. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. And I think like, at least this is what been my experience. I'll love to hear what your thoughts are. I built my tough mindset from hard workouts, from experiencing like, almost like I had a super tough workout, got through it, got a little tougher. Yeah. I didn't necessarily get it from like thinking like, or like saying stuff to myself or anything like that. Like I remember when I was in college, really clicked for me a lot. Wrestling my assistant coach who doesn't train that much, like twice a day, or like once a week or something with the guys and wrestling live, but he's really coaching. I'm grinding out 2 sessions a day and I'm a little heavier than him too. He's a little chunky, like I'm in shape. And he broke me. Like, I had to keep getting drinks of water. Like, he kept breaking me. Yeah. And that's when it clicked to me, like, well, one, mindset does matter. Like, if you're actually mentally tougher, like, it will, like, almost equal out cardio. Like, all this actual cardio and this extra work I've been doing. And it's like, and even now, like, as a coach, like, well, obviously, the technique side's a big push, too. Because you can stay in good position, you'll get tired as well. But, like, I'll never, like, I'll train like once, I'll wrestle my guys just the live portion. They're drilling, they're doing all these extra workouts, but like, because they're mentally not there yet, it's so hard that they get gassed out still. Yeah. You know, they can't, get through. And I think a lot of it is because they haven't experienced the practices I have for long enough, and those tough weight cuts or whatever. What's your thought on it? And I know you also have we have a sports psychiatrist person too.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on how you feel like you built that?
Well, I think actually I do have some things that I say, my coach always told me believe in my training. So that's exactly what you're saying. You believe in your training, but you're not necessarily saying that. But I have my coach in my head, saying believe in your training. So that's something that I visualize before I compete. I say a prayer that God turns my nerves into energy and allows me to compete to the best of my ability. And that helps me compete better because I trust God. And then, I'm just willing to fight too. A lot of people, feel maybe are afraid of confrontation. They're oh, this guy's bullying me. If I want to fight back, I have to get aggressive and basically get mean with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to do that, but you got to understand it's a respect too. Levi Haynes used to come in and we used to kind of when he was young, a freshman, they'd be banging heads and wrestling really hard, hand fighting, pushing, but I respected him for it because he was not willing to back down.
Yeah.
Where some guys will come in and they'll just let me
score a bunch of points
and they'll laugh.
Yeah.
They'll laugh when I score or whatever, and that makes me mad. I'm don't ever laugh. You gotta believe you're gonna win.
Yeah.
And so and then another guy Zane, me and Zane would be pulling each other's shirts over their faces during practice, but it's you gotta be willing to stand up for yourself, defend yourself if somebody's beating you up.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means just getting aggressive and
don't want someone to push your face in the mat.
No.
Somebody yeah.
No, yeah.
I feel the same thing. It's if I'm wrestling some of my athletes and they're they're fighting really good and then they kind of let me get the takedown again. I'm no, but why'd you stop there?
Yeah.
It's don't respect me because you'll never be able to jump that next level. You'll never be able to really break through that wall. But yeah, that makes total sense.
I was always trying to beat my coaches.
Yeah. You have any coach specific that you were
Coach Nolf was a D2 national champion and I was always trying to beat him. He was a 125 pounder, but he was probably 145.
Yeah.
And then Jody, I would always try to beat Jody.
Yeah.
John, Matter.
You ever come back when you were in college and scrap with them?
A little bit. I think I heard Jody in high school. I put him in a power half.
Yeah.
I think I heard his shoulder.
Double boots or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, any of my coaches, I want to beat everybody.
Yeah. Love it. Some of my wrestlers and a lot of wrestlers out there feel like they started late and they're looking to, make a quick jump. And one person that came to mind when I was, knew you were going to come down was Anthony Cassar. He maybe didn't have, I don't know if he walked on or not, but he may not have had the same, high school accolades, but was able to become a national champ. Or maybe anybody else in the room or people you've seen that have made big jumps did they train differently? Did they have to, did somebody like Anthony have to put in more work to get to where he had to be?
I think with Anthony too, he just had such a strong belief in himself. And we talked about that before. He never made the state tournament until his senior year. And then he won the state tournament in New Jersey. And then same thing in college. He never made the starting lineup until he competed in a couple duels, but he never made the starting lineup for the postseason until his senior year. And then he won the nationals and beat Gabe Stevenson. But he believed that he was going to do it. And he visualized it. There's a Big Ten, special on it.
Yeah.
That people can look up. But, he did everything because he believed in himself. He was willing to do every single thing right. And, he had to go up to heavyweight. He had to, he was basically gagging himself when he would eat because he had to, wake up in the morning and eat, raw chicken. Not raw chicken, dry chicken.
Yeah.
Boiled eggs and, and it's he did not want to eat it all, but he knew that was part of training. And, he lifted really hard and he trained hard and he mentally trained and he just did everything right. And, he trusted our coaches, he stuck to the plan that they had for us. And, that he was able to get it done.
Yeah. I think the one thing that you just said right there where you're he believed he could do it, So he put the work in and needed to do it. Like, I have athletes, or I know of athletes, you know, that I try my best to help them believe that they can do something they don't believe. You know, maybe it's like, I believe I can All-American. I don't know if I can really win the national title. Or I believe I can, like, place third in this team. There's that one guy, like, I don't know if I can really beat that guy. And that's kind of like what I see with some of my athletes. And what happens is if they don't believe they can do it, then they won't put in the work like they're trying to do it.
Yeah.
Like, they'll miss the practice, or they won't do the extra. They won't stay after because they're like, well, I'm guaranteed going to be an All-American.
Yeah.
Like, I already know I'm going to be an All-American. And I really don't even believe I'm going to be a national champ. I can't make that big of a jump.
Yeah.
So it's like they end up getting stuck in this thing. And the first step is like, you actually have to believe, like Anthony did. Like, obviously you did too.
Yeah.
And you knew the work you had to put into it. Because you have to do it back to back, stuff like that. So I think that's something that you guys can learn from is you have to definitely believe. Like, really, no matter how crazy you think it might feel, people on the outside might think, there's no shot you're able to do that. You gotta make that.
Yeah. There was one thing that like Jody used to always say was like you should write down your goals. Like, and the more you write down your goals, like the more likely you are to achieve them. And if you really don't believe that you're going to achieve those goals, then like your body won't let you write them down consistently. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
like it's just sound like your mind. Yeah. You'll just stop writing down your goals because you don't really believe that you're going to achieve them. So it's just an interesting concept.
So like if you force yourself to keep writing it, you maybe can change your mind towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. So you're retiring from wrestling, going into jiu-jitsu, you're going down to Texas, opening up your club. Obviously you're focusing on growing oceans. Can you talk a little bit about what your decision was to stop with wrestling? I know people can go over and watch your Oceans podcast as well. You talked about it, but just a little bit on your decision to kind of go more into jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so I've been wrestling for 22 years, and for me, like, it's been kind of like the same schedule my whole life, and like kind of like the same thing over and over. So I'm just ready to do something different. I'm not just a wrestler, and I want to be able to do like, I want to have the freedom to like chase other things like business and like maybe jiu-jitsu and start a wrestling club, like impact kids in a different way. And so I'm really excited about that. Like for me, like I don't put too much value on like who I am as a wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm like not sad at all about being retired.
Yeah.
Like some
Well,
people
excited?
I'm excited. Like I've loved pretty much every like time in my life. Like my least favorite was probably high school, and that was just because of how hard it was. But I look back and I love it because I'm glad I did what I did. And, but yeah, I'm really excited to move down. We're going to start a wrestling club. I think it's going to be called Nolf Wrestling Academy. Yeah. And, yeah, we're going to put on like a little free clinic in a couple weeks, for all the kids in the area, for kids to come and check out and see what I do. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to compete in jiu-jitsu. I still like competing. Like, I love playing games, and like jiu-jitsu is going to be a fun game to learn. And then obviously the main reason I'm moving to Austin is to grow Ocean. We want a headquarter down there. We want our whole team to move down. And, I think like when we're together, like we'll be even more powerful and, be able to like, Austin's just a great community for like software and for jiu-jitsu and, you know, connecting with people. And it's warm in the winter, so I can play golf.
Yeah, I see those videos of you playing golf.
Yeah.
It's going. I guess the last thing I want to talk about. So you obviously help build Oceans to help impact more people, right? Like there's people out there that don't have access to Young Guns, don't have access to Penn State, don't have access to these facilities, and you're trying to give them that technique so they're at less of a disadvantage and they can actually maybe still accomplish their goals if they're living in Alaska or something like that. What do you recommend? How do you recommend going about studying the technique, picking the tech? What technique should a kid be trying to look for? You know, is it just because obviously one aspect is it's entertainment, like I want to watch my favorite wrestler. Yeah. But like if a kid's trying to get better, should they be picking stuff in their certain system? Should they be like going back to the same video? Should they be ripping through as many videos as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to find like obviously getting started, you should start with like a youth fundamentals instructional. Like Jody Stripmatter has a really good youth wrestling fundamentals neutral and just top and bottom one coming out too. Like starting something like that as you're getting out, but then finding a wrestler that you do really like and then you want to emulate your style after, and then trying to wrestle like that. I tried to wrestle like David Taylor. David Taylor tried to wrestle like Kale, so in turn I kind of wrestled like Kale a little bit. But I would watch David Taylor and try to figure out what he was doing, why he was making wrestling look so easy. And I think like if you start finding guys that you like to wrestle like, and then watching their technique, that helps you like implement it into your system better. But that's one thing in jiu-jitsu that guys will get so good, like they'll become a black belt just like self-taught because they just watch instructional videos and then they'll be like with their girlfriend or like with their sibling or something. They'll just be in the living room like working these techniques, and they'll do it all the time. And so like that's the power of instructionals, and I think wrestling needs to adopt that more. And we're gonna make it a lot easier too. Our app is coming out in a couple weeks, so we'll be able to download it on the App Store and on Android, and so we're really excited about that. Now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I 100% believe in that stuff too. You know, that's the only reason why I post any all my videos are just like the technique stuff. Cause I think it's so true. It's what my experience was, you know, we're living in Rhode Island, not super well known for wrestling. We're trying to do big things here to grow it and stuff like that. But, there's a lot of areas throughout the country, throughout the world. Ian, the guy that, my friend, he's from Singapore.
Yeah.
So they don't have any like really good wrestling there, like he was saying. So it's important to get that information out to people that don't really have it. Not every, Pennsylvania's nice. There's like 30 colleges that have wrestling and every whatever person knows a decent technique. But, you know, I truly believe you're making a big difference to people that they don't have access to high level wrestlers, high level technique.
I think clinics too are really good. Like, doing clinics because you actually get like the kids get to meet the people that they're watching and that hopefully inspires them. But again, like I'll be here tonight for an hour and a half teaching cradles. And then, you know, if we didn't have video access of it, then how are the kids going to like remember all the little details? Like you can, as a coach, you can remember them and teach them to your guys. But on Ocean, like they can go back, watch all the stuff that I'm going to teach, and have that so that they can study that over and over. And so I think clinics are really good, but like Ocean is really good too. Like, it's even like better a lot of times. But I mean, you want to like still do the clinics because you want to like all the kids want to meet like the guys that they watch wrestle. So that's important. But
it's like the main issue with camps, clinics was you're gonna learn a bunch of maybe in your mind random moves and you're not remembering them. And it's like now that there's video access to it, it's like you guys can go back and watch your favorite stuff and actually get it down and really be able to learn it because you want to actually get the most value you can out of clinics, camps, and glad you're able to give value to my wrestlers and excited for the clinic in a couple hours.